There are people who are good at saying no. They do it calmly, clearly, and without flinching. They don't over-explain. They don't look for permission. And they definitely don't carry it with them for the next 3 days like emotional luggage. If you're watching this, that's probably not you. There aren't many things as exhausting as saying yes when you really want to say no. Someone asks for your time, your energy, your attention, your money, even when you're already stretched thin. And instead of protecting your peace, you find yourself saying, sure, or no problem, or the classic, it's fine. Except it's not fine, because now you're stuck doing something you didn't want to do, resenting the person who asked, and beating yourself up for not speaking up. You hesitate. You stall. And later, when you're up at 2 a.m., regretting your life choices and drafting the perfect rejection you should have said, you start Googling things like this: how to say no without sounding mean, or how to say no and still be a good person. You're not alone. Most of us were raised to believe that no is a bad word that disappoints people, ruins relationships, or makes us look selfish. But saying no isn't rude. It's not a rejection of others, but a reflection of your values, energy, and boundaries. So why is saying no so hard? The short answer: guilt. Most of us aren't actually bad at saying no. We're just scared of what comes after. The awkwardness, the silence. You're scared of the look on someone's face when they realize you won't drop everything for them, afraid of being seen as selfish, rude, or unreliable. If you're a people pleaser, turning people down can feel like a personal failure. The problem is that saying yes all the time doesn't make you a good person. It just makes you a tired one, and sometimes a resentful one too. You must learn that you can't give your best when you're running on fumes, and the people who truly care about you don't want you stretching yourself thin just to make them comfortable. This is why saying no is not mean. It's not rude. It's not selfish. It's honest. It's necessary. And done the right way, it's even kind. This video is for you if you've ever agreed to plans and immediately regretted it. If you've ever loaned money you couldn't afford to give. If you've ever let someone talk you into something just because saying no felt too awkward. Let's start by discussing the guilt, where it comes from, what it does, and how to stop letting it run your life. Why we feel guilty for saying no. Where does that guilt actually come from? For many of us, it's from years of being trained by family, school, religion, culture, or society at large, to believe that our worth is tied to how much we do for others. If you're not constantly available, you're somehow failing to be a good friend, partner, child, or employee. And so now, when you try to put yourself first, even in small ways, your brain sounds the guilt alarm because you're breaking an old, invisible rule. Other times, guilt comes from fear. The fear of disappointing someone, the fear of being left out, the fear that people won't like you if you stop bending over backwards for them. And that fear makes guilt feel like a warning. Don't rock the boat. Don't be difficult. Don't make them upset. But here's the truth. Guilt is not always a reliable compass. Sometimes it shows up not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something different. Something that challenges the version of you people have gotten used to. Saying no doesn't make you a bad person. It just means you're setting a boundary. And yes, boundaries can be uncomfortable at first, especially for people who benefit from you not having any. But guilt is not the same as wrongdoing. You can feel guilty and still be doing the right thing. You're allowed to disappoint people. You're allowed to protect your time. You're allowed to say, this doesn't work for me, and not explain yourself like you're on trial. You don't owe everyone access to your time, energy, or peace just because they ask nicely. And when guilt shows up, because it probably will at first, that doesn't mean you failed. You're rewiring an old habit. You're learning a new way to relate to yourself and others. One where you don't automatically say yes out of fear, and you choose your yeses and your nos on purpose. So now that we've called guilt out for what it is, let's talk about something even more powerful. How to actually say no without sounding like a villain. I know you think no's are all about slamming doors and giving people the cold shoulder or being harsh and dramatic and saying things like, I don't owe you anything, even if it's technically true. You can be clear, kind, and honest without twisting yourself into a pretzel to make everyone feel okay about your boundary. Let's start with a truth bomb. No is a full sentence. You don't always have to explain, justify, or apologize for it. But if you're like most people, that still feels a little too blunt at first. So let me share some examples of gentler ways you can ease into saying no, depending on the situation. First, when you want to say no without burning a bridge. I really appreciate the invite, but at the moment, I'll have to pass. That sounds like a great project, but I'm not available right now. Thanks for thinking of me. Unfortunately, I don't have the bandwidth to do it justice. These responses are polite but firm. You're not ghosting, dodging, or saying maybe when you really mean no. Second, when you're turning down help requests. I'd have loved to support you, but I'm currently busy. I hope you understand. I can't help with that, but I hope you find someone that can. I'm dealing with a few priorities at the moment, so I won't be able to take this on. Notice the pattern? You're not attacking the person or making excuses. You're owning your limits without apologizing for them. Third, when someone pushes after you've already said no, I know it's disappointing, but I've already made my decision. I hear you, but I'm standing by my choice. I understand you really want this, but my answer is still no. You're staying calm, grounded, and unshakable. You don't have to get angry. You don't have to repeat yourself 10 times. Boundaries don't require volume, only consistency. Before we continue, we also have to address over-explaining. This one's big. A lot of us feel the need to give too many reasons so people don't feel bad. For example, I'm so sorry, I've got this thing, and then I've got another thing, and I'm just so busy right now. But here's the deal. The more you explain, the more it sounds like your no is negotiable, and people will start trying to poke holes in your reasoning. Instead, keep it simple. Say what's true, then stop talking. Less is more. Clear is kind. You don't have to give a TED Talk or an emotional PowerPoint presentation. You can be brief and still be thoughtful. And if someone doesn't like that, that's their problem, not yours. How to stand by your no, even when it's uncomfortable. Here's a hard truth. Saying no is only half the battle. The real challenge is not taking it back when things get awkward, because people will test you. Some will try to guilt trip you. Others will ask again in a different way, hoping you'll cave. And then there's the internal war of, did I do the right thing? What if they're mad? Maybe I should have just said yes. This is where the guilt lives. But here's the reminder you need. You're allowed to disappoint people, especially when it means staying true to yourself. Let that sink in for a second. You are allowed to be misunderstood, to not be liked by everyone, and to put your well-being above someone else's comfort. That doesn't make you mean. It makes you honest. Here's how to hold your ground. 1. Remind yourself why you said no in the first place. Write it down if you have to. Was it to protect your peace? Focus on your goals. Avoid resentment? All of those are valid. Keep that reason close, so when doubt shows up, you're not tempted to backpedal. 2. Resist the makeup gift. After saying no, a reflex kicks in, like you have to make up for it. You say no to babysitting and then offer to bake cupcakes instead. You turn down a date and offer to stay friends immediately. You decline a project and then offer free consulting. Pause. You don't have to overcompensate. A simple no is not a crime that needs fixing. You can still be kind without guilt tipping the scale. 3. Expect discomfort and ride it out. Sometimes, people will be upset. That's okay. Discomfort is part of the growth package. Other people's reactions are not your responsibility, especially when you're communicating clearly and kindly. 4. Don't soften your no into a future yes. You know the kind. Maybe later. I'll see what I can do. Let me think about it. Don't create false hope if you already know it's a no. It'll make you even more tired in the future, and the pressure will come back stronger. Respect your own time by being honest now. 5. Let your no be boring. You don't need to justify it, over-explain it, or dress it up. A calm, clear no is powerful on its own. Saying no doesn't mean you're difficult. It means you've stopped betraying yourself just to keep the peace. You're not here to be everything for everyone. You're not here to exhaust yourself for someone else's comfort. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to rest. And most importantly, you're allowed to choose yourself, even when it's uncomfortable. So the next time your gut says no, trust it. Say it with your chest, with kindness, and with clarity. Then let it stand. Because every time you say no to what drains you, you're actually saying yes to the things that bring you joy.